That caused some friction, yeah, most definitely, because they all felt that they went right and I went left. But the fact that there comes a time in everyone's life when you have to do what you feel is right for you.
After wanting creative control and better royalty rates, the Jackson 5 decided to leave Motown in 1975 for CBS/Epic Records. Jermaine decided to stay at Motown, and youngest brother Randy replaced him in the group renamed as the Jacksons. It was not an easy decision for Jermaine to stay at Motown. In her book, My Family, the Jacksons, Catherine writes, married to the daughter of the president of his label his brothers were leaving, Jermaine was in a difficult position. If he decided to go with his brothers to Epic, he would upset Hazel and Mr. Gordy. If he decided to remain at Motown as a solo artist, he would upset Joe, me, and the boys. In the end, Jermaine upset his family. When Jermaine explained to Joe and me that he felt he owed his primary allegiance to Motown for giving the Jackson 5 its first break, Joe was incensed. "It's my blood running through your veins, not Berry Gordy's," he stormed. When Jermaine added that it was Mr. Gordy who put steaks on our table and teeth in our mouths, I spoke up. We were already eating steaks in Gary. And while it is true Mr. Gordy loaned us the money to get caps for the teeth that Jackie and Tito had chipped, he's recouped that money hundreds of times over. Jermaine's decision to stay loyal to the record company that gave him and his brothers their start backfired. It caused division in the Jackson family. He didn't speak to his father or brothers for 6 months and only kept in contact with Catherine. In Jermaine's book, You Are Not Alone, Michael Through a Brother's Eyes, he revealed that Joseph cut off his weekly allowance and share of royalties and would call him asking, "How are you doing, Jermaine? How you living? How you eating?" Not only did Jermaine feel like he lost his family for staying loyal to Motown, but he says fans turned against him and accused him of breaking up the Jackson 5. He experienced depression and loneliness during that time, which inspired him to write his songs, I'm My Brother's Keeper and Lonely Won't Leave Me Alone. In 1976, the Jacksons would release their self-titled album, which produced the hits Enjoy Yourself and Show You the Way to Go. That same year, Jermaine would release his album, My Name is Jermaine. Catherine wrote in her book, "We also heard how foolish the boys had been to leave Motown." However, Motown didn't exactly seem to be performing wonders with Jermaine at the time. My Name is Jermaine, his first solo album since leaving his brothers, was a disappointing seller, despite Berry Gordy's pledge to the press that Motown was going to make him a superstar. Jermaine's single, Let's Be Young Tonight, flopped. In 1977, the Jacksons released their Goin' Places album, and it wasn't a huge commercial success. Tito recalls in Catherine's book, all of a sudden people were telling us that our career was finished. Catherine said, Michael didn't doubt himself or his brothers for a second. Don't worry, mother, he told me when I voiced my concerns to him. We'll be back on top again. And the brothers were back on top the next year with their album Destiny, which went double platinum. All songs were written and produced by them with the exception of Blame It on the Boogie. Jermaine wrote in his book, As for me, life without the brothers was a reality check. Motown put everything into the production of my album My Name is Jermaine, but it didn't get behind its promotion as much as it could have. It had other priorities, like Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, and Diana Ross. So much for everyone's suspicions about me becoming the favorite son. This reality would hit home hardest in 1982 when the track, Let Me Tickle Your Fancy, with Devo hit number 17 in the US and carried Billboard's red dot symbol, signifying it was a bullet set to climb. But Motown didn't harness the momentum. The song lost the bullet and started falling. I remember wandering around London at the time, feeling despondent and marooned. My most notable chart success at Motown was with Let's Get Serious, which reached number 9 in the Billboard Hot 100 and number 1 in the U.S. R&B charts in 1980 before earning a Grammy nomination for Best Male R&B Vocal Performance. People said that a nomination must be nice, but all I heard was Joseph's voice reminding me that it's the winning that counts. However hard I tried over the years, it was never the same without my brothers. I didn't regret sticking to my principles. I just regretted the new reality. In truth, neither I nor the Jacksons could recapture the magic and heights of the Jackson 5. In that respect, we chased our own shadows for much of the late 70s and early 80s. Everyone thought Jermaine being married to the boss's daughter would help his career and that he would receive favoritism, but that wasn't the case. Despite Jermaine staying loyal to his father-in-law, the company didn't push Jermaine the way they should have. Jermaine was loyal to Motown and even brought major acts to the label. He wrote, "I continued recording, but also decided to channel my energies into becoming a producer, guided by Mr. Gordy. Find them, sign them, mind them, and re-sign them," he always said. I had my own office and instructions to find and produce new talent. With Hazel, we brought in Stephanie Mills, Switch, and DeBarge. If I didn't exactly flourish in the charts, I advanced behind the scenes. Jermaine eventually became frustrated with his career and the lack of support from his record label. In his book, he writes, "There had been a lot of changes in my career, too. Ironically, it was Joseph who suggested that I needed to shake things up a little. You've gone as far as you can at Motown. You need a change. You need to go see Clive Davis." Joseph had known Clive since he was president of Columbia Records before he had founded and built the growing empire of Arista Records. Everyone in the music industry knew of Clive, a savvy trailblazer with a nose for hits who had previously signed artists like Janis Joplin, Earth, Wind and Fire, Bruce Springsteen, and Aretha Franklin, to name a few. Starting Arista from scratch, he'd taken the label from a big fat zero to $70 million in his first 4 years, and his roster of acts was growing all the time. As Joseph told me at the time, "That is a man who knows what he's doing and where he's going." Before I went to see Clive, at a meeting that Joseph would arrange, I needed to speak with Mr. Gordy. I couldn't line something up and then jump ship without letting him know. When we had the big talk, we both knew that my solo career and producer work had exhausted all its options at Motown, and that our professional relationship had reached a natural end. But that didn't make my heart weigh any lighter. As we talked, he made it easier for me. "You and Hazel need to see how it is to work with other people," he told me. "And get out from beneath my wings, as your father-in-law. I want to see you grow." Although several years remained on my contract, he released me, and, after 14 years at Motown, I left with immense gratitude, with songs still inside me, and as ready and able producer. This time, leaving felt right, and the circumstances were never in dispute. The difference was that I had no one in my ear telling me what to do. From 1976 to 1982, Jermaine released 7 albums with Motown. Jermaine would leave Motown in 1983. Jermaine would meet with Clive Davis. In his book, he wrote, "Over the next hour, we had a fine meeting and I liked him enormously. Whatever his mind is spinning with, you always feel like you've got his full-fledged attention." I told him that I still wanted to make great music, and he gave me some pointers as to how he saw things. The upshot was that we shook hands and I signed to Arista. Jermaine would rejoin the Jacksons after Motown 25, and they would go on to announce a reunion album and tour that would change the world the following year in 1984. That year, Jermaine would release his first album on the label. He wrote, "My debut album with Arista was set to release singles like Dynamite and Do What You Do. I was excited about my collaboration with Whitney Houston and a duet with Pia Zadora, singing When the Rain Begins to Fall, #1 in 4 European countries." With the album and rise of MTV, Jermaine would create music videos to promote songs from the album. Feeling on top of the world and selling out stadiums with his brothers, there was no one bigger than the Jacksons in 1984. Leaving Motown seemed to be the best decision for Jermaine at this point in his career. He would stay with Arista until the early 90s. Though Jermaine was loyal to Motown, he had to do what was best for him. Do you think Motown dropped the ball with Jermaine? And where did Jermaine make his best music, at Motown or Arista? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe for more stories behind the scenes, more stories behind the songs, and more stories behind the siblings, which is the Jacksons. This channel is ran by the Jacksons' 70s and 80s Instagram page. Be sure to follow and leave a message. God bless.